Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the Mortgage Musketeer. Today we're going to be talking about manufactured homes. Yes, the infamous double wide trailer. How do you buy them? How do you sell them? This video is for anybody who's trying to buy, sell, realtors, loan officers, anybody that's dealing with a manufactured home. A lot of people have issues with them. They don't understand how they work. How do you get them across the finish line? This is going to give you 6 tips. 6 tips on how to make your purchase or sale a little bit easier. All right, so tip number 1. If the home is built before June 15th, 1976, cash deal. It cannot be financed. I say again, if it's built before June 15th, 1976 and you're listing the home, it's a cash deal. If you're trying to buy the home, you're not going to get it financed. Not going to happen. Understand that? Know it? Done. Tip number 2. Has to have a HUD plate. So when the manufactured homes, the double wides are built, they all come with a HUD plate on the outside. It's got to be visible. For those people who buy a home and they redo it and make it look all nice, but they cover up the HUD plate, that's an issue, right? So when you're going to list the home, look for the HUD plate. See if it's there, because if it's not there, you're going to have a hard time selling it. If you're going to buy the home, make sure that when you're looking at a double wide trailer, you find the HUD plate. If you can't find the HUD plate on the outside, you're going to have a problem. Somebody's going to have to pay for that in order to get it either visible or get a new HUD plate. Okay, so understand that, know it, make sure you do it. Number 3, manufactured data. All right, so when an appraiser goes out to appraise the home, they are going to look inside for the manufactured data. And most of the time when these are built, they are normally inside the kitchen, in a kitchen cabinet or someplace where nobody ever wants to look at it. It's a bunch of paperwork, and it has all the manufactured data. What is the model number, manufactured year, there's all kinds of manufactured data that the appraiser has to have. So most people tear it down and hopefully they save it, but a lot of times they throw it out. I've also seen it in the back of bedroom closets. So look around, see if you can find it, ask the seller. If you're listing it, ask them if they have the manufacturer data. If they don't, it has to be, gotta get it in order to close the home, because the appraiser has to see it. If the appraiser goes out there and he can't find the manufacturer data, then they're going to condition us for it. They're going to come back, they're going to give an appraisal, and then the underwriter is going to look at the appraiser, and then they're going to condition us for that. Then we're going to order it from a place called IBTS, and it costs anywhere from $250 to $400, depending on your timeline at that point, whether you got to rush it or if you can take your time and get it. But it's still money that has to be paid as part of closing costs. Who's going to pay it? Is the seller or the buyer? I've seen them both. Understand it, know it. If you're a seller, look for it. If you're a buyer, ask about it. Okay? Then after that, you're dealing with vehicle title. When a manufactured double wide is brought in and put in, it is a vehicle. It has a vehicle title. A manufactured home must be converted to real title. If it's not converted, can we do it in the closing process? We can. Okay, but that's a little bit more of a pain. But you have to surrender the vehicle title, and you got to get it converted to real property. So that's something that needs to be done. So if you're selling a home, you should be converting your home to real property. If you're buying it, you need to ask, hey, has this home been converted to real property? Again, realtors, that's something that you should be asking. Has it been converted to real property? After that, the big one, tip number 5, the engineer certificate. HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, HUD requires an engineer certificate. It's got to be done. Every financed manufactured home must have an engineer certificate. It's not a overlay, or it's a guideline from HUD, and that's ensuring that it meets the legal standards set by the Housing and Urban Development. So an engineer has to go out and do that inspection. That ranges anywhere from $450 to $550, depending on where it's at. Okay, that has to be done, but it only needs to be done once. So if this is a newer manufactured home, somewhere there was an engineer certificate, but nobody can ever seem to find them. So then it has to be ordered. And if it has to be ordered, somebody has to pay for it. So again, sellers, if you're going to sell your home, you know you got to have it in order for it to sell. you should have an engineer certificate. Buyers, if you're going to buy the home, you need to be asking about the engineer certificate. I see probably 75% of the time the buyers end up paying for the engineer certificate. It's part of closing costs. You can negotiate that. Realtors, when you list a manufactured home, ask them, do they have the engineer certificate? And if somebody has purchased a home from somebody else, there was an engineer certificate involved. So see if you can get a hold of it, because you don't need a new one. You just have to show that it meets the requirements. So no need having to pass on that same cost every time a manufactured home is purchased or sold. Okay? So it's got to be done. And then the actual engineer, what they're doing is they're going to make sure it meets the HUD guidelines. That's a whole other video. I'm going to go into that at another time. But just understand that we have to have a certificate come back from the engineer going, hey, it meets HUD guidelines. Okay? Super important. Takes time. And if it does not meet HUD guidelines, if it's not, doesn't have enough, it has to be strapped down. So if it's not strapped down, or if it's on pilings that aren't cemented in, they call it dry stacked. There's all kinds of things that could go sideways on that won't make it meet HUD requirements. And if that's the case, it has to be resolved in order to get a clear engineer certificate. And then that just draws time out. Okay? So understand that that has to be done no matter what, and somebody needs to address it in the process. And the last thing, tip number 6, manufactured homes tend to be a little bit more expensive to insure. Depends on, I mean, you can shop around, you can get the best rate, depends on where it's located, a lot of factors in there. But if you are a loan officer and you are creating the pre-qualification and somebody's super tight on their debt to income ratio, you need to bump up your estimated homeowners insurance a little bit. Because, for instance, if you're thinking it's about $100, it might be about $130 to insure a month, right? So put that in there so that you don't get surprised by debt to income ratios later on when they're going to find homeowners insurance and they realize it's a little bit more expensive. So if you're buying a home, a manufactured home, understand that it could be a little bit more. So do some research, kind of find out how much it's going to be. Most of the time it's not prohibitive, it's just a little bit more. So understand that. Now, having said all of that, manufactured homes are really nice. There are some amazing manufactured homes out there. And they kind of have a connotation of going, oh, it's a double wide, from the whole lending industry. But outside of those 6 things that I just told you, and only 5 of them have to do with underwriting directly, it's just like any other loan. Where people run into problems is they don't know about these tips. So if you know about these tips going in, it'll make your process smooth. All right? I hope this helped. I know that just understanding these particular guidelines will enable buyers and sellers and loan officers and realtors to get a lot more smoother transactions. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please hit subscribe, ring that bell so that you know when I got more videos coming out. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And remember that it's all for one and one for all. Have a good day.